if your company was $100 million, would you be behaving this way, acting this way, making a decision? And they said, no. I said, okay, well, so why don't we act like that to make decisions? It's the difference between the transition. Here's what everybody tries to do. They go from a worker and then they say, well, I don't want to work for that idiot. I'll go be my own boss. So they become a boss. Then they end up in a world where people say, don't be a boss, be an operator.
Hey, law firm owner, welcome to the Your Practice Mastered podcast. We're your hosts. I'm MPS.
And I'm Richard James. And MPS, today we have a fantastic guest. It's a good friend of mine, somebody that I've introduced you to, and I think you've started to like him too. He's got wild amounts of success in his own business, is certainly going through his own sets of struggles, and then taking both the struggle lessons and the success lessons and brought it into people, into his niche, then exited successfully from two different businesses, and then from there was able to morph over to figure out how to help people get the most out of themselves and how to grow their businesses in his next iteration. So I'm excited to have this conversation with our good buddy Mike. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey everybody, I'm super honored and excited to be here, and let's get started.
Yeah. Well, hey, Mike, we like to kick things off with a bit of an icebreaker around here. So what's something that maybe not everyone knows about you?
I have a lot of tattoos, but what most people don't know is I've tattooed a whole bunch of tattoos on myself.
Wow.
Yeah. I've been a tattoo artist for probably over 28 years, and people don't know that. I don't do it regularly. I do it every blue moon when my son threatens me enough or begs me enough to do it. And the second thing is I'm an artist. I've done airbrushing, and people normally don't think of that with me.
So were you like, is that an interest of yours as a young age, and you've always been artistic?
You know, my dad, being big old school Italian, he had an eagle tattooed like this one, an eagle on his arm. And he had another thing that had mom and dad on it. So I grew up seeing a tattoo on his arm, which normally if you have a parent that's tattooed, you're probably going to get tattooed. And I had an amazing guy, Richard, that was tattooing me. He was actually, probably shouldn't have been tattooing me. I was probably 16 years old.
Right.
But I said, oh yeah, I'm 20 years old, because I had a beard at 16. And he passed away. And I was then trying to find other tattoo people. And most of the tattoos back then, I mean, I'm level 54 now, but it's different today. Today you go in tattoo shops and they're giving you creme brulee and, little cups of coffee. Back then it was like biker stuff.
Right.
And I couldn't find a place, because even though I looked young and biker, I've never done drugs. I've never drank alcohol my whole life. So my wife always says, you look like a bad boy, but you're a good boy. And that brought me into the world of tattooing. I couldn't find somebody. So I said, you know what? I'll learn how to tattoo myself and solve this.
I bet some people have a struggle, Mike, MPS, with this idea of Mike never had a drink or not a drug, but a drink in his life. That's a bit like, that's an unusual one, right? I mean, drugs I get, but the drink side, it's like, feels like a social thing. Like you just decided never to do that, huh, Mike?
Yeah. And this is water, by the way. I never drank alcohol. Look, I've been on my own since I'm 15 years old. And I ended up living in an apartment with my 17-year-old brother. And when you're on your own, and I went to a vocational school, so I can't wait to talk about struggles, because when you want to talk about working and getting to Saturday and all you want to do is sit on the couch because you're so fatigued, like I can't wait till we talk about that. But I had a choice. I went to a vocational school. I mean, 99% of the people were like doing cocaine and drinking at 14 years old. And I really wanted to grab a path and improve the world wrong and say, I'm just never going to do this. Plus, I do know, and I don't know, MPS, if I knew that, I don't know if I knew this back then, but I do have an addicted behavior. What that means is I can't go golf, because if I golf, I have to become the best in the world at it. So I knew young, like, if I did drink, I'm not going to be the guy that drinks a little. I'm going to master drinking. So I knew my own, limitations, and I never did drugs, never smoked cigarettes, never drank any alcohol, and I'm level 54. And, now I see the benefits of a lot of that because I've not been driven by that hook in me, you know?
And never mind the health benefits there. I would say that comes from being very self-aware, which is quite the skill to have. So props to you. Level 54, no alcohol, no drugs, no smoking. That is a good track record.
No caffeine. 18,
wow.
18
no caffeine too?
No caffeine, 18 years. No gluten for 18 years. Now, I never drank coffee, but I used to drink caffeinated Big Dunkin' Donuts iced teas when I was in the field. And now, if you want to know that, like, I thought those were tough. I'm dairy free for a month. Now, as an Italian, I don't know what the hell I'm doing with this one because this is like, holy mackerel. I'm a cheese eater. Go in the fridge, pop little mozzarella, boom.
Right.
You know, like a quick fix in an Italian. But, you know, doctor said, look, let me show you some studies. You make a decision. So I said, I'm not a dairy eater no more. And I feel more amazing. So it's great.
You got to eat Grandpa's pizza anymore, or Nona's pizza anymore, not regular pizza. You remember Nona's pizza?
It's better though.
Yeah, it is better. Yeah, no cheese on it, just crust and sauce.
It's horrible. My daughter and my wife made these. We make this pizza on like chicken crust, which you like ground up chicken and make it. And there's no dairy on it for me. So she's like, what do you put on? I'm like, this sounds horrible. I have to put so many mushrooms and vegetables to convince myself there's cheese underneath of it. But look, I want to live forever or as long as I can. And I want to go, it might sound crazy, but I want to go for 140. And I don't want to be 140 and dribbling down my mouth. I want to go as strong as I can because my son's 25, my daughter's 22. And eventually I want to have grandchildren and I want to be there. And I want to be there for the world as long as I can, you know?
I love it. The longevity aspirations are great. Have you ever, I think, is it Ben Johnson who's on like the biohack journey, who does like all the crazy biohacks and he's reversed his biological age by, I don't remember I think he's like 47 and his biological or how his body's ages is like 25, something like that.
Well, that's really impressive. I'm beating my age by a decade right now. But I'm going to tell you, please don't think of me. A lot of people, well, Richard knows me for a long time. We're friends. But I tell people, don't think I'm not the guy, and I'm not mocking those that do. I don't get up at 4 a.m. I don't ice plunge. I don't sniff oils and this stuff at 5 a.m. in the morning. I don't do that stuff. But I'm a big energy guy. I believe in that. And about 5 years ago, I did a blood test, and I was shocked. It said my inner age was a decade older than I was. And I said, what is going on here? Like, I'm doing a lot of things, but doing a lot of things doesn't mean you're doing a lot of the right things at the right time. So I put double focus in it and I reversed it by a decade now. So It says I'm level 43 and, you know, I'm level 54. And that's the goal, right? If I could keep going back. Now, the rest of it's not showing it. Like me and Richard there, like, you know, this is wisdom,
right?
But inside is longevity, right?
Exactly. It is. That's where it matters most, inside. Well, that's very fascinating to me. I always find the longevity conversation super cool. But I do want to learn a little bit more about the journey. So you're talking there a bit about the struggles and just couldn't wait to get to Saturday. Walk us through that time. What was that?
Well, you know, I became an electrician by trade, and I know there's a lot of attorneys on here. There is very little difference between an attorney and electrician. There is. We think we're owners, but we're trading a lot of dollars for hours. That's what I was doing too. And I went to vocational school for that because they run you through, and I did carpentry and I hated sawdust and I did auto mechanics. I was like, these guys are ridiculous. And I thought, electricity, that can kill you if you make a mistake. And for some reason, maybe I had some kind of death wish. I don't know. But I started working for people. And I got to tell you something. I thought all my bosses were idiots. So what do you do when you think your boss is an idiot? You quit and start your own company to come to the reality when you look in the mirror, you're become an idiot just like your boss was. That's what happened. I was like, I'm having the same struggles I thought my boss. Like, I was like, you should hire like this and do that. And then there I am having all the same problems. And it took me, maybe I'm a slow learner, I don't know. It took me over a decade of struggle, a decade, until something clicked. And if you want me to tell you what clicked, I could tell, because maybe it's the turning point for someone listening to this that goes, I'm ready for a turning point, or I feel, should I share that?
Well, you should, but we have to just earmark this, Alonzo. We now have the headline, right? There is very little difference between being an electrician and being an attorney. That is the headline of this podcast. No question, right? But yes, Mike, by the way, I completely agree with you. All of our members, when they first start any one of our events, have to raise their right hand and say, my business is not different from yours. And so we're on the same page there. But yeah, please share what that turning point was.
Yeah, and for everybody listening, I got news for you. I know, I'm pretty sure, including myself, like I don't go, I'm excited to call an attorney. And no one's sitting home going, I cannot wait to call the electrician. Like, no one wants either of us. So welcome to the tribe, everybody. After about 10 years or so of grinding it out, and I know they heard their dad's story of, 5 miles to school barefoot, one leg with no socks and stuff. But really, that's how it felt for me. And maybe a bunch of you, like it is morning to night, no turn off. And for me, it was 7 days a week for a long time until my son's born. And my son is born, and oh my goodness, I didn't know it was going to be a son. I've always wanted every child, me and my wife. I'm with my beautiful wife, Jennifer, since we're 15 years old. It's 38 years now. So we've been this journey of life together. And so she's in the hospital, and I have to go home, and I'm going to put together one of these gliding rocking chairs. I can't even believe we still have it. And my wife had me bring it from our first floor, and it's in our living room now, this gliding chair. I can't even figure it out. But I put it together, and I got it, and I was sitting. It must have been 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And Richard, I sit back like this, and I just start crying and crying and crying. And I'm saying, I had a vision. I'm going to be like my dad. Now, I loved my dad. He passed in November, my dad. But he worked so hard for us. He missed so many things. And I was crying, and like life was going, like I was like seeing my son grow up and me missing this stuff. And I said, this has to change. And from there, it put me on a quest. Now I'm a martial artist. There's something a lot of people don't know. I'm a martial artist since I'm 15. So 38 years I've been training in mastery in all kinds of martial arts. So I've had a lot of discipline and focus. I just didn't know the direction to go. And that was the first catalyst for me. I'll give you the second one because this might relate with some of you. The second one was I had a business partner, and he came in one day, and this was all happening at the same time. He came in one day and he says, listen, I'm out. Now back then I was still working out of a truck, climbing in attics, crawl spaces, sniffing cat crap in people's litter boxes. And when he said, Richard, I'm out, I said, oh, I'll see you tomorrow, because we used to eat, the lunch truck used to pull. You guys know a lunch truck? And this person would go, hey, come here. My wife made you empanadas. And he would pull this little tin foil thing out that his wife made for me and my partner. And I'm in Carhartts, and, my hands are soft now. So, like, don't judge me today. But I thought he ate bad empanadas. I said, oh, I'll see you tomorrow. And my business partner said, no, you don't get it. I'm out. He's done. He says, you do it. I'm burnt out. I'm fatigued. Everybody listening, have you ever felt this way? Nod your head like we can see you. He's like, I'm burnt out. I'm fatigued. I'm done. And I said, well, if you're done, I'm done too. But why don't we do this? We just must not know what to do. So we took a couple days. We came back, and I had a plan. Now, back then, guys, I didn't think a best practice organization or something like what you guys do for attorneys today. Let's just face it. I know you guys long enough. And everybody listening, they didn't tell me to say anything. I believe in what they're doing, or I would not be on this show. This is not what I do full time. When you get the right things to do at the right time, you speed up life to freedom. To freedom. And what is freedom? People would say freedom is to do what you want, where you want, with who you want, without restrictions of time and money. I nailed it. That's not it. Freedom is to live a vacation style life. Now, I'm not talking sipping pina coladas. I'm talking, you get to say yes and no to anything you want forever. That's freedom. And so when he said that, we came back, and I built a plan thinking my plan's the plan. But then I said, what if someone's got a better plan? And I went and searched out some of the greatest gurus. I pulled out my American Express card. Scary, everyone. And I saw American Express the other day. I called them. They're like, well, first they put me on this automated machine. I hope we're not going to talk about AI because I get very cranked up. But they put me on this automated machine. And then eventually, after screaming at them for 5 minutes, representative, they say, thank you for the 35 years. I said, how are you thanking me? You made me scream at the phone. My wife's telling me, why are you so mad at the telephone? So I went and I said, let me pay, and it's a pay to play. Let me pay for a solution. Because, I have a training knife here, so don't freak out anybody. It's a training knife. If I had a heart problem, I would not go on ChatGPT or Google and say, cut here, pull this out, pump here, put a pig's heart in. I wouldn't. I'd get the best in the world to either tell me what to do or do it for me. So let me stop there because you guys know I could go on for a long time, but I hope everybody listening is saying, hang on, I'm at that place and getting hope, or I'm past that place and I'm getting motivated.
Well, before Michael had met you and I said we should have you on the show, Michael's like, well, what do you think, Mike, we'll talk about? And I said, all we got to do is crank Mike in the right direction, and we won't have to say another word, because it's just gold that pours out of his mouth in both lessons and stories. And so a couple of quick points. First and foremost, you and I know this. We have a lot in common. We just had interviewed Michael's mom, my East Coast Italian bride, Maria, a couple of podcasts ago. We revealed that we've been together since we were 16 and 15 years old. I now find out that we both had American Express the exact amount of time. The difference is when I was 19 years old and they gave me an American Express card, I went to the Bahamas on it, and I would charge all the meals with my buddies, and they would give me their cash. That's how I was able to go to the Bahamas. But American Express doesn't mind because they got paid, but I minded from the interest payments there for a minute. Anyway, that was back, by the way, when American Express had an Optima card, and you could actually pay payments on American Express. So not that we're giving any inside business there, but let's, this whole idea that there's this iron welded moment in which you're going to realize a change. Now, some people, interestingly enough, may be listening to this and they haven't had that moment yet. Like, it's still going on for them. They're still in the middle of the story. They haven't had that aha moment. Maybe they haven't had their first child, or they didn't. It didn't have that effect on them. They haven't had a partner quit, or they don't have a partner. Whatever it is, they haven't yet had that aha moment. And they're trying to figure out what it is they need to do. And so one of the really positive reasons why we decided to create this channel was, so we just realized there was a whole bunch of people out there that were not paying to play, and our goal is not to get them to pay to play. And if they want to pay to play, great, go hire whoever you think you're going to most relate to. But really was to give them some inspiration and some hope to know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, even if they don't see it right this very second. And so when you started down that journey and you decided to pay and play, it wasn't like, maybe I'm wrong, Mike, but it wasn't instantaneous fix, was it?
No. And all of you watching this, you're paying to play right now, just not the game you want to play. You're all paying to play, trust me. When you are paying to play, that's the difference between, like, what do they call it in football? The kids, like, you pull the tag off versus, the pros. So you're paying. No, nothing's instantaneous. Everything comes at the moment you make a decision that you want to shift your identity. There's a couple ways your identity shifts, and let me talk about this a minute. One way is forced identity. Listen, your mom passes, your dad passes, you forced identity. You change like that. As a matter of fact, I love my dad. I spent so much time. I learned so many things from him. I didn't realize how much wisdom came after he passed than when he was even here. Because I started to think about it. So everybody grieves different. But when my dad passed, I said, wow, how many, and I reference things he does. And so that's a forced identity. Or you lose an arm. Forced identity. I chosen identity. And a friend of mine told me 2 decades ago, you can't build a $1 million business with $100,000 dollar thinking. It doesn't work that way. And today I noticed that people, instead of choosing, like, I just said to someone the other day, I said, okay, you're dealing with this problem. If your company was $100 million, would you be behaving this way, acting this way, making a decision? And they said, no. I said, okay, well, so why don't we act like that to make decisions? It's the difference between the transition. Here's what everybody tries to do. They go from a worker, and then they say, well, I don't want to work for that idiot. I'll go be my own boss. So they become a boss. Then they end up in a world where people say, don't be a boss, be an operator. And most people stop there. I said, here's what I want everybody to do. And everybody grab a pen to write this down. I want everybody to be a wealth investor. Okay, wait a minute. Some of you are saying, I'm not even making enough money. No. You're confused of the definition of wealth. When your kids love you more, that's wealth from your kids. When your health, that's wealth. Right? So wealth comes in a bunch of forms. Your car that takes you from here. I love today, Richard, when people, they complain about their car. I just met a woman down the beach because I live at the Jersey Shore. And this woman's 90. She's 90 years old. Get this. Your son, me and you will relate. He's going to be like, what's going on? So I'm talking to the woman. And anytime I meet somebody of any age older than me, I'm curious. So I say, tell me about the past. What was happening in the past that you're thinking today, this is ridiculous? She goes, let me tell you something. This elderly woman, sharp, she says, we didn't have cars. We didn't have gasoline. I'm sitting here going, you're mad you got a flat tire. Do you realize there was a point there wasn't even a car? But it goes to the identity thing, right? So if everybody writes down, if you want to move further faster, you got to change your identity. When I started putting skill sets in, Richard, I got improvements. When I changed my identity, I got exponential growth.
That's huge. I mean, yeah. MPS, why don't you pivot into where we want to go with the exponential growth?
Yeah, so by the way, I think that lesson was excellent and really, really powerful. But from a tactical perspective, that is tactical. But from a tactical perspective, what was maybe the 1 to 2 shifts you made at that point in your business that really allowed you to take the next step?
Yeah, awesome. This is tactical if you look at it as you have to question yourself.
Correct.
When you look in the mirror tomorrow morning, do you say to yourself, I'm worthy of more money. I'm worthy of a bigger company. That's tactical. And if you don't think you're worthy, you can't go to step 2. Step 2, I will share with you guys. Every time I'm helping, because this is like, I can share what I do later. I have a portfolio of companies I'm building and stuff. I always ask the people before we partner, do me a favor. Growing whatever you have, it's going to be a piece of cake. Only if I know the shame, the guilt, and the traumas you're fighting against. Because if I don't remove those, we're going to move while you pull an anchor, and I'm going to run you over. So the next tactical thing, 1, am I worthy? 2, what shames, guilts, and traumas do I have? Number 3, everybody needs, you go to school, and I would imagine a lot of people in your field, they went to school to get a degree because someone went before. Even Luke Skywalker needed Yoda. He needed to say, and even when Luke Skywalker sat there and remember that one scene in Star Wars, if you've seen, he can't get the ship, and then Yoda, right? I want to get my version of Yoda. Yoda's kind of like this. Step back, dude. And he's just like, yeah. And then, I just imagine Yoda after that scene, walking by and dropping a mic. Look at that, right? Did you see what I just did? I raised the ship. But then Luke Skywalker's like, oh man, this is possible because he did it, I could do it. So another tactical thing, look at people who did it, know you're worthy to do it, and then everything is reverse engineering. Everything's a math formula. This world's a math formula, this earth's a math formula, everything's a math formula. And I hate to say it's not rocket science because when you don't know it, it is rocket science. But when you're around people like you guys are marketers, when you're around a marketer, it's like, hey, how do I get the right lead, who's the right avatar, who's ready to say yes at the right time. So as I started learning, and I just share, oh my goodness, me and my wife, we bike ride or walk 3 times a day. After every meal, we go for a walk. It's probably why we've been able to stay together so long. And I'm doing a call with somebody, and you know what, NPS? They're saying, the guy's saying this to me on a call while I'm on a bike ride. He's like, well, I'm going to build this big thing. I said, okay. Everybody that's listening, just build the next thing. That's all. Just the next thing. Stop acting like you have to build this monster. And I know it. Let me give you one more if it's okay. Tactical. Stop having this feeling of this comparison effect. In all groups, there's a legend and there's a beginner. And the cool thing is actually not the legend. It's the beginner who becomes a legend. When I was in a best practice group, I went in there, and not like your groups. Back then, that group I was in, they were like, oh, you're small potatoes. Go in the corner, kid. And then I outgrew in 5 years every one of the founding fathers. So it wasn't impressive the people that had the biggest companies. It was impressive the people who improved a little thing tomorrow. So let me pause there and tell me where to go.
Well, look, first and foremost, this whole idea of not worthy, to illustrate the point I'm about to make, I went and taught virtually a class at a law school invited by a client of ours, and asked me to come in and teach this class. And, to get everybody kind of warmed up, I had some questions. And one of the questions I asked was, hey, how many people here in the class, there was 25, 30 people, how many see yourself as entrepreneurs? Not a single hand went up. And I talk a little bit more, and then I came back and I said, so by the way, how many of you expect at some point in your career that you're going to have to go hang your own shingle? Everybody's hand went up. Yeah. It was interesting that they didn't see them. They didn't go into business thinking as an entrepreneur or a business owner. They just think that that's the way that it's going to be at some point. They're going to have to leave the firm that they're at and go open their own firm, basically to get a raise in income. So it's this technician mindset, right? They're going to be a lawyer. They're just going to make more money being a lawyer if they open up their own firm rather than being paid a salary by somebody else. And a lot of them still feel that way, and they're passionate about the law and what their law does for their clients and how it helps them. And they've got great mindset, except they now own this business that they don't have a lot of acumen in. And so I don't know, maybe you could speak to this idea of moving from the tactician over to being the business owner, because speaking of formulas, mathematical or otherwise, I've started to teach this principle. I'm trying to put it in a way that lawyers can start to understand, because I've said it a lot of different ways and nothing was landing all the time. And I said, Mike McCallich, because we teach Mike McCallich's stuff. Mike very well. He's a good friend of yours as well. And he teaches the Profit First methodology, and he changed the formula in Profit First, right? He said it used to be gross revenues minus expenses equals profits. And then he said, well, that's not right, because that means the owner gets paid less. What we got to do is change the formula. It's got to be gross revenues minus profits equals expenses. So you spend your expenses after you take out your profit. And I thought, okay, we got to do the same thing with the mentality of the attorney, because they've got it like juxtaposed. In other words, what they do is all the working hours they're willing to work, whatever they are in the course of their life, a day, week, whatever, what they do is they do all the legal work and client work first, and then with whatever's left, they work on the business, on the marketing, on the sales, on the systems. And what I'm asking them to do is just change the formula. Take all the hours they're willing to work in the course of a day or a week or whatever, and let's change the formula. Let's peel out some time and work on the business, on the marketing, on the systems, on the sales, and then what's left will work on the legal stuff. And if that means you got to hire another associate to help you, well, so be it, that, but the working on these things have to come first. But that's asking them to change their paradigm and thinking from this tactician to being an owner. I'm assuming you saw that with the folks you helped in HVAC as well.
Yeah, same thing. And I helped a lot. I mean, I coached my coaching company. I coached over 1,000 business owners, had over 20,000 tradespeople come through my training. So I really understand the makeup of a human who wants to be a business owner but stuck in the physical skill. And look, all of us have been stuck there too. And I remember, now I ended, my first company I sold, for those of you who don't know, in 2017, I sold my $32 million service company, had 200 employees, 165 trucks, big ass building. And I remember when I first started to hire, Richard, and I hired a guy and I said, oh, pretty good. Like 80% as good as me. But the day I watched a guy better than me that was working for me, I said, wow, this is life changing. You mean I don't have to go do it? There's people better than me. And a lot of people said, how'd you scale your company, your service company? I said, I didn't need the very best. I needed them to be 80% better than everyone else in the world. That's it. And so you do have to get humble, and your identity has to move in there because it makes sense. Now, me being a trades guy, I had to go out there and physically do work, which I tore the ligaments in my ankle one time. And you ever notice, like, there's no disability for the business owner, just for everybody else, which I'm like, well, how does that work in the world? So I have a cast on my leg, and I put a plastic bag over it and duct tape it, and I crutch in a backyard to wire a swimming pool. And the customer says, what are you kidding me? What are you doing? I said, I'm going to be in this 6 weeks. In 6 weeks, I'll either have a living or I'll be broke. So don't mind me. I'm going to get the job done. You have no risk. And with me and a couple guys on crutches, I wired a swimming pool. But it also turned to me and say, wait a second. How do I get different? I want everybody to write this phrase down. Write this down. I promise it's worth it. If you're driving, pull over and stop. I started to ask myself one question. If there was a way I could do this better or different, what would it look like? If there was a way I could be an owner of my law practice, better or different, what does it look like? Now, I'm probably going to frustrate some of the law people right now, so please don't be offended. I remember probably 25 years ago, an attorney friend of mine, I said to him, we were comparing, what do you do? And what am I, in my 20s? I'm probably making $150,000 a year in my 20s. I've been debt free since I'm 28. I haven't had a mortgage since I'm 28 years old. And I said, man, I'm so impressed. You have this degree. You put all this time in, like all this schooling, and you're in front of judges and stuff. I was like, how much money do you make? And I'm thinking he's going to say 400,000, 500,000. And he says, well, I'm doing okay. I made 85,000. I went, and I like choked a minute because I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to piss my friend off. I'm like, and then I went home and told my wife, babe, I make more than attorneys. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah, I crawled in a crawl space and was sniffing cat litter, wiring something, and I make more than the expert in a suit and tie. Can you believe this? And she all of a sudden looked at me like, oh my God, you're a knight in shining armor. And then I was like, so I'm like, look, and I'm not mocking you guys. I'm a fighter for the universe because I'm a fighter for business owners, because we don't have economic problems for no reason. If you want to change the economy, you got to change the thinking of every small business owner. We are the catalyst of destruction or prosperity. So I share that because sometimes I think about, and that's happened. Hey, attorneys and stuff, don't feel bad. It happened with a guy that was a doctor too. Same thing, same story. So I'm blown away by this, but let's dig into another question because I want to make sure I'm giving value, and I want them to write stuff down and ask questions and take action. I want this episode to change their life.
Well, I would tell you, you've probably done that.
Good.
But I want to hear from you, just what's got you fired up? What's got you excited? Could be business, could be personal, could be both.
I got so many things got me fired up. I am a lover of people and a lover of life. This is a thrill for me just to be here. I know you a little bit, but I know your dad a while now.
Yeah.
And one of them is my son's in our business, FuDog. He's 25. He does like 40 coaching calls a week. He's one of the top. I'll throw him against any business person. He's helped guide 2 people to become deca-millionaires in the last 6 months. And it's a thrill. My beautiful wife is a partner of mine. I've never had her as a business partner of the other company. So there's a son navigation, which, Richard, this is great. Here's how my sons, our calls go. Hey, Michael. Hey, what's up? This is dad speaking. Hey, son, what are you doing? You going shooting? Yeah. Hey, Michael. Yeah, dad. This is boss speaking. We need to talk about this and this. And so my wife and I are always telling our son, hey, this is mom. This is your boss. So we're just gifted to have this beautiful like experience that's happening. And that simple thing, anybody working with family, that simple thing has created beautiful guidelines and took away emotional turbulence. So I'm super pumped about that. The other thing is, look, the coaching company I sold and the company I have today, we have now people that I've influenced, impacted, and helped. Over 70 of them have sold their company in the last 36 months. 70. And over 90% of them have become decamillionaires. And those of you listening, if you don't know what decamillionaire, look it up because I want you to write it on your identity sheet. But like, it's not about the money they made. It's changed generations now. Some of them that, maybe couldn't afford medical, they give to charities more. So that's got me excited. And just how my wife and I don't have my new shirt on, but our new shirt says life, business, and wealth by design. And we have built that. We don't have to be anywhere at any one time. It doesn't, if it's Sunday, if you guys wanted to do this Sunday afternoon, I'm like, perfect, let's do it. Like, our life is so incredible with that. And then the other thing is my daughter, she's just doing incredible, amazing. And she's went through some of her own stuff and she's come out the other end and she's maturing this other level. So look, family side's incredible. On the business side, we have FuDog Group where we do some cool stuff. And I'm building a portfolio of companies. So anybody listening, even though I sold 2 companies in the last 5.5 years and I did over 500 million in sales in these companies, I'm building a portfolio of companies and our target's 500 million by 2030. And people ask me, why? And I just said, because it sounds fun. It just sounds fun to do it. I haven't done it. Because every time, everybody listening, write this down. Every time you break a boundary, you open a door for someone else to step into a bigger future by seeing what you did. So, I love what I'm doing every day. Even though my mom, every time, she's really good. She guilts me, my mom, every time. She's like, you're working too much. You don't call your mom enough. I'm like, Mom, I don't work at all. So thank you for asking that. And I'm passionate about robots coming in. And I'm passionate about the disturbance of AI. And I'm passionate about human consciousness changing. So I'm such a lover of life. And I'm glad I'm on here because this will outlive me and go someday, and hopefully somebody watches it on Mars 1,000 years from now and they say, man, those guys were pretty damn cool.
Well, hey, Mike, congratulations on 2 major exits in business, building yet a 3rd company where you're now changing people's lives to the tune of 70 plus people having these exits, and your next level, which is now building your own little, I guess we'd call it a PE company, where you're in the acquisition business. And Michael and I talk about this all the time. That's where we're headed as well. And the idea of having the family in the business, I've had family in my business for most of my career. I have hired and fired, my mother, my father, my brother, my cousin, right? So, I've been through that, and it's not fun when it goes bad. And when you're young and you really don't know what you're doing, I don't know if it's a great idea to hire family because it usually ends poorly. Now, I love it. They all know how they can get in, and if they want in, they can have a seat at the table. Yeah. And Michael, as I mentioned to you earlier, probably earlier in the year, he purchased 49% of our company this year, and his brother is now in our company as well, and he's rocking it and moving right up the ladder and also changing some lives. And so we're excited to see that, and a skill set he didn't even think that he had, which is sales. And so we're having fun watching him do that. And, just as a little nod to MPS, we did our numbers like we always do, and as we went through the first half of this year, we recognized we're up 100% this year over last year. And that's not because of me. You and I spoke. I was a little stuck in my own mindset. I was liking golf more than I was liking work. I kind of felt like I had made enough. Yeah. And I was somewhat sedentary. And Michael wanted to push because he's like, if I'm going to buy this, we need to go. Yeah. And here we are. So excited about what we've got going on here. But I feel like I'm at this stage now where I get to spend, like you, I get to spend time with people I really want to spend time with, and you're on that list, and I just really appreciate your friendship and you willing to be here. If anybody wanted to learn more about you, about FuDog, about just if they wanted more of Mike in their life, how could they do that?
Yeah, I think, and by the way, you did something really great with your son. You named him one of the best names out there, just so you know. Michael.
I agree.
Yeah, my son is Michael, so I already knew you were brilliant once I knew the name. So
Right.
everybody else listening, that's Michael. You're brilliant too, but we love all you. Go to FuDogGroup.com. It's FUDOG Group.com. That's a great place to check us out. Find me on Facebook. Friend me. If you message me, it's going to be me. I don't have a robot responding to my private stuff. I respond to all of it myself. I don't like these to ever be a drive-by. So if you feel I can help you or serve you, I'm also not here. After doing 500 million in companies, I don't need to sell anybody anymore. If I'm a fit, it's great. If not, if I'm a solution to refer somebody, I'll do it. Anybody listen here, you already know they're in good hands with you guys. I've watched your events. I've been in I know the magic you guys bring. So you guys, no one needs me for that magic. These guys have the magic there. And yeah, I'm on Instagram and all the fun stuff. I did write a cool book. Maybe I send you the link. They could get a free copy of it called Mind Power. And if I could ask one favor, if anybody listening, if you have any you help any battered women's shelters or veterans groups where maybe people are struggling, if you'll think of me, I will send them free books on me to help them out. The Mind Power book has helped a lot of people. And if you have battered women groups or people that are struggling with either groups of people trying to level themselves out of addiction, if you reach out to me and I have time, I will do Zoom. I'll do a presentation, 100% free for them, no cost. So if anybody does, it's part of what we do every day. I want to make sure we're a part of helping the people that are just working hard to help themselves. So thank you for allowing me to share that.
Boy, that's strong.
Very. And we appreciate you being willing to give back and provide so much value, not only holistically, but today on the pod. So thank you for investing the time to be here. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate both of you guys.
Of course. And to the law firm owner listening, I mean, there's a lot of value to be got today. So I hope you took the writer downers that Mike gave you. And if you did, comment down below. Let us know what you got. What'd you take from it? And make sure you hit that like and, of course, that subscribe or follow button, depending on where you're listening or watching. But we appreciate you investing your time into this as well. We love doing it. So that's your way of telling us you're enjoying.
Well, I'm with the two Mike rock stars, so you're both rock stars. Appreciate you both. It sounds like that's the pod, MPS.
That's the pod.